Our next speaker is Urvi Gupta. Urvi completed her master's in biodiversity, conservation, and management from Oxford University. Previously, she has worked on the All India Tiger Monitoring Project, and currently, as a project biologist, she works with the Black Kite team in association with the Wildlife Institute of India. The title of her talk is Black Kites and Their Relationships with Anthropogenic Resources. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the black kite, which is very common in our Indian cities. Today, I'm going to speak about how telemetry has kept us fascinated about these birds even after 10 years of continuously monitoring them. Now, black kites are distributed throughout the old world and are amongst the most common raptors around the world. Their distribution overlaps with that of the steppe eagle, Asian tawny eagle, Pallas's fish eagle, and several other endangered raptors, which are difficult to study, thus making black kites a good model to study movement ecology and the conservation requirement of other raptors. Now, India, and specifically Delhi, which is our study system, boasts two subspecies of black kites. The resident Milbus migrans govinda, which is the small Indian kite, and the migratory Milbus migrans lineatis. Now, both of them can be quite difficult to distinguish, but there are some features that help us. The lineatis weighs roughly twice the weight of the govinda bird, has a lighter cere and tarsi coloration, longer feathers near the tarsi, and a white carpal patch on its underwing. However, both of them being subspecies have a lot of overlaps on their morphology. While we attempt to tag them, we ensure that the tag and the Teflon weight stays less than 3% of the bird's body weight. And during the tagging exercise, we ensure to take basic morphometric measurements, genetic samples, and blood smears to study their disease at a later point. Trapping them is a different ballgame. So for the migratory birds, we use a carpet of nooses on the food subsidies at the slaughterhouse facilities because we observe them in high congregation at these sites where they sit down and feed. However, the resident govinda birds are lighter in weight, more acrobatic, and are habituated to the philanthropic meat tossing exercise done by the Muslim community in Delhi. So we do something similar, that we toss meat around the mist net and wait for the birds to get trapped in it. However, if we have to capture a resident breeder, things change and we have to put a smaller carpet of noses on the nest during its incubation period specifically. So this is a photo from 2014 when we tagged the first bird and got to learn about the fascinating movement ecology of these birds and how they utilize our cities. So over the last few years, we've been able to tag some 20 birds. This is the data set of 19 birds that we followed. And we can see that their summer breeding ground is 85 times larger than their wintering ground, thanks to the food subsidies that India has to offer, that we've limited their resource requirement, movement requirement in this area. Saying this, I still believe that this is a very small sample size that we've tagged because these birds are present all over India and there will be different strategies that they'll be using. We've seen that these birds have higher speed while moving towards their breeding ground, and they cover a distance about 4,000 kilometers in about 3 weeks. Their speed is faster while going towards their migratory grounds in Central Asia because the adults have to secure a breeding space. And it's very interesting to see that these birds can fly as high as the K2 range. The E-word also corroborates with the data. We can see that during the summer months, there are observations in the Central Asian steppes, and during the winters, most of the observations are in South Asia. We've recently published this work in the journal Scientific Reports, if you would like to read this paper in greater detail. And what we've done is added our data set to the already existing pathways of the Central Asian flyway, which are used by other birds. Now, I'd like you to recall that image of the chicken slaughterhouse facility where trapping kites. So, as I said before, that black-eared kites congregate a lot on these landfill sites and chicken mandis at Gazipur. Now, we know that Central Asia is the hub of bird flu, and when India faces it, we cull a lot of poultry and a lot of waterfowl dies. But what is the role of raptors, if any, is virtually unknown, and we hope to uncover this in the coming few years. Apart from the black-eared kite, we also focus on the resident birds, and we, along with camera trap and telemetry studies, we've been able to uncover their foraging ecology, although we've barely scratched the surface. So we've only tagged a handful of birds, but we can see very predictable movements to their food sources where they get food subsidies, and about 90% of their diet is comprised of these food subsidies that they get from mosques. To distinguish between the home ranges of the black-eared kite and the black kite in Delhi, I have got these maps for you. Now, the red area comprises of 50% of the bird's movement. So, for the migratory bird, we can see there 50% is at around the landfill sites of Delhi, and has got a fairly smaller home range. And for the resident breeders, which were followed throughout the year within Delhi itself, the red parts again were the areas during its breeding season where it was nesting and where it was foraging. So very predictable movements and very restrictive movements during its breeding season, but outside of the breeding season, it had a larger home range. Since tags are expensive and we've not been able to we haven't had the opportunity to tag them in large numbers to justify the sample size. We also do wing tag, and this has also revealed very interesting patterns. This is an individual that was wing tagged in Delhi Zoo last year in April, and subsequently in 4 months' time, it was resighted in Urvi, Bikaner, which is some 450 kilometers. Hopefully, tagging them in the future will give us more details about the local dispersal of juveniles. Now, we do know that black kites are really high in number and they offer incredible scavenging ecosystem services. However, they do cause some conflict with the aviation industry. So 60%, close to 60% of all the bird strikes that happen in the aviation industry are caused by black kites. And Republic Day is a day of concern for the Indian Air Forces. So this year we analyzed the data for both the subspecies for the month of January. And we plotted a risk map to show where is the maximum, at which heights are the maximum risks, and at which heights the risks are minimum, so that the Indian Air Force and the pilots can prepare for any casualty, can be better prepared for their flight formations. Thus, telemetry is a great tool not only to understand the movement pattern and ecology for conservation purposes, but also to mitigate conflict based on their behavior. With this, I'd like to thank our project supervisors and the project team and the funding partners who very generously supported our study for the past 10 years. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Urvi. We have lots of questions for you, but I will take only few. So starting with Suhail, who wants to understand about the map where you showed the wintering region and the summering region for the kites. Suhail wants clarity on like how the data, was it for like individual birds, or did you compile the full data set for 19 birds you tagged?
We compiled the data for 19 birds.
Okay.
So all of the data is there.
You can like follow it up in detail about the rationality of compiling it together. Another question we have is about like question of like people want you to have like cameras like stationed on the birds. There are a few questions about why do these kites get attracted to runaway strips. So we will cover these questions in the panel discussion. So I will skip it. Farah wants to understand your like schemes about like how do you screen the blood smears for parasites. So maybe if we can quickly inform about like our protocols like in like nascent stage.
So yeah, so once we have a bird in hand, we make a blood smear and we preserve it, and then stain it in Gimsa and then analyze it under the microscope at various degrees of magnification. We are still doing the analysis, we're still screening it, and we are at very nascent stages and still learning. So after like at 10x, 20x and so on and so forth, will be, you know, and multiple fields of the same slide. That's how we look at our blood smear.
So there are other questions which we'll take as part of the panel discussion, some of which concern like the impacts of tags, wing tagging, and putting transmitters in birds. So thank you, Urvi.